ISAAC MALIYAMUNGU, a prominent military figure and one of Ugandan dictator Idi Amin's most trusted officers, played a significant role in some of the most turbulent and violent years in Uganda's history. Maliyamungu rose quickly through the ranks after joining the Ugandan military in the late 1960s, becoming one of Amin's closest confidants and leading some of the most notorious and brutal crackdowns during Amin's regime. Early life and military rise. Maliyamungu's origins are somewhat obscure, but he likely came from the West Nile region of Uganda, a background he shared with Amin. He was recruited into the Ugandan military around 1967, potentially at Amin's behest, as Amin, then deputy commander of the Uganda Army, was strengthening his influence. By 1970, Maliyamungu had risen to the rank of corporal and worked as a pay clerk for the Uganda Army Air Force at Entebbe. During this time, he was allegedly involved in Amin's secret recruitment of soldiers from the West Nile and southern Sudan, preparing them for an anticipated power grab. When it became apparent that President Milton Obote intended to arrest Amin, Maliyamungu reportedly warned Amin, expediting their coup plans. Maliyamungu played a vital role in the subsequent coup against Obote in 1971, which saw Amin rise to power. He allegedly took control of Entebbe airport by driving a tank to secure it, creating a panic and ensuring that Amin's forces could operate with little resistance. Amin's right-hand man, following the successful coup, Maliyamungu quickly rose in prominence within Amin's government. He was appointed to influential positions, including membership on the Defense Council and a leading role in the Army's training and operations. Most importantly, Maliyamungu became Amin's right-hand man and head of the VIP Protection Unit, a force responsible for enforcing Amin's will and ensuring loyalty within the ranks. His closeness to Amin and his reputation for ruthlessness allowed him significant power, making him feared among soldiers and the public alike. Brutal tactics and repression. As one of Amin's chief enforcers, Maliyamungu was infamous for his brutal methods. He became known as Amin's a hitman and a principal hangman, conducting purges within the military to eliminate real or perceived opposition. His violent tactics reportedly included executions by dismemberment and even running over dissidents with military vehicles. Maliyamungu's forces were responsible for massacres of civilians suspected of opposing Amin's rule, further consolidating the regime's grip through terror. Maliyamungu's involvement extended to high-profile killings, including the murders of Janani Luwum, the Archbishop of the Church of Uganda, and Francis Walujembe, the former mayor of Masaka. The execution of Luwum, a significant religious figure, drew international condemnation. Maliyamungu reportedly chaired the sham trial of Luwum and was later implicated in his death. Corruption and smuggling. Like many in Amin's government, Maliyamungu used his position for personal gain. When Amin expelled Uganda's Asian community in 1972, Maliyamungu was part of the committee responsible for redistributing their property. He seized wealth for himself and also became heavily involved in coffee smuggling, using Lake Victoria to ship coffee illegally to Kenya. Amin's British advisor, Bob Astles, attempted to curtail Maliyamungu's operations, but the conflict only ended with Maliyamungu reportedly kidnapping and torturing Astles in response. Military failures and decline of Amin's regime. While Maliyamungu was ruthless in repression, his record in combat situations was less impressive. In 1976, he made a significant blunder by ignoring intelligence regarding an Israeli raid on Entebbe airport. When Israeli commandos successfully executed Operation Entebbe, freeing hostages held by pro-Palestinian terrorists, Maliyamungu's failure to act revealed serious security lapses within Amin's regime. By 1978, Amin's grip on Uganda was weakening. Economic difficulties and internal dissent within the military compounded his struggles. Maliyamungu, as one of Amin's most loyal commanders, played a key role in recruiting new soldiers amid military purges and preparing for war. In October 1978, a border conflict between Uganda and Tanzania escalated into the Uganda-Tanzania War, and Maliyamungu was placed in charge of defending key positions. As Tanzanian forces pushed into Uganda, Maliyamungu's leadership faltered. During the Battle of Masaka in February 1979, the Ugandan forces under his command fled with little resistance. Later, he participated in the Battle of Lukaya, but accusations of cowardice and possible corruption plagued him. According to Amin's son, Jafar Amin, Maliyamungu had been bribed by the Tanzanians to avoid effective engagement, and his poor performance contributed to Uganda's military collapse, flight and death in exile. When Amin's regime finally crumbled in April 1979, Maliyamungu fled to Zaire, now the Democratic Republic of the Congo, taking much of his wealth with him. He eventually relocated to Sudan, where he remained involved in pro-Amin activities, supporting guerrilla efforts to regain control of Uganda. However, his ambitions were short-lived. In 1984, Maliyamungu reportedly died of poisoning in Sudan, marking a violent end for one of the most notorious enforcers of Amin's rule. ISAAC Maliyamungu's death in 1984 is a somewhat mysterious chapter, layered with suspicions of political intrigue, betrayal, and possible foul play. After fleeing Uganda at the fall of Idi Amin's regime in 1979, Maliyamungu settled briefly in Zaire, now the Democratic Republic of the Congo, before moving to Sudan. There he maintained ties with pro-Amin factions and continued low-level insurgency efforts, hoping to one day return to Uganda with renewed power. However, this dream was cut short when he reportedly died of poisoning under unclear circumstances. Details surrounding his death, the exact details of Maliyamungu's death, are shrouded in speculation, as different accounts offer varying explanations. Some sources suggest that he died in Sudan, potentially at the hands of political rivals within the exiled Ugandan community. After Amin's downfall, many former loyalists sought sanctuary in neighboring countries but were fractured by divisions and rivalries. These factions often clashed over leadership and influence, and Maliyamungu's reputation as a former enforcer might have made him a target of resentment or fear among other exiles. Another theory posits that he may have been poisoned by Sudanese operatives, possibly under pressure from Ugandan or Tanzanian authorities who had vested interests in preventing any resurgence of Amin loyalists. By 1984, both Uganda and Tanzania were keen to maintain regional stability and would have viewed Maliyamungu as a potential destabilizing force. His continuing allegiance to Amin and support for insurgent activities may have pushed Ugandan intelligence or their allies to eliminate him quietly. Foul play and political motives. Maliyamungu's death aligns with a pattern seen among Amin's former allies, many of whom met untimely and violent ends after fleeing Uganda. Poisoning, as alleged in his case, was a common method for handling political threats without drawing undue attention. In the volatile political climate of the early 1980s, Uganda's new government under Milton Obote was focused on consolidating power and suppressing any lingering elements of the Amin regime that could inspire insurgency. The suspicion that Maliyamungu might have been assassinated for these reasons is plausible, particularly given his history of brutality, influence, and defiance. Moreover, reports from the time hint that Maliyamungu had amassed a significant amount of wealth through smuggling and other means during Amin's rule. His accumulated fortune, reportedly taken with him into exile, may have also made him a target among his peers, particularly in Sudan, where he lived in relative isolation and vulnerability. Whether by political assassination, betrayal within his own ranks, or revenge from former victims, the poison theory suggests a dramatic end fitting the life of a man who had built his career on ruthlessness, legacy of fear and reprisal. Maliyamungu's death in exile prevented him from facing justice in Uganda, but his passing did little to erase his fearsome reputation. For those who lived through the Amin era, his brutal legacy as one of the regime's chief enforcers left a mark that persisted long after he fled. Even in death, his name remained synonymous with terror and the dark years of Amin's rule. Ultimately, Maliyamungu's mysterious death stands as a stark reminder of the brutal cycle of violence and betrayal that characterized Idi Amin's Uganda. Like many high-ranking officials in Amin's regime, Maliyamungu's loyalty and ruthlessness carried a high personal cost, culminating in an end marked by suspicion and an unceremonious exit from history.